Second, don't be ashamed of your past work. Instead, acknowledge your growth and look back at how far you've come. Third, don't ignore the writing you never completed. You never know which pieces you may find yourself repurposing for something else. Fourth, don't feel like you need to share every piece of your writing. I find that sometimes my work can teach me more about myself than anything else, and thus doesn't need to be made public for the world to see. Fifth, find someone to help you with the writing you do want to share. Whether it be a teacher here at the Legion, or a friend or a family member, having a second pair of eyes on your work can greatly help you spot mistakes you never even thought you could. Finally, know when the story should end. Don't feel pressure to keep going after you've reached a natural conclusion. Taking that piece of advice to heart, this speech is coming to a close. I hope that you have at least appreciated this speech, especially given how much of it I hinged on my writing ability. But more importantly, I hope that you choose to take at least some of this advice into your own life. Thank you for listening.
Our second speaker today is Ryan Anderson. Ryan will be introduced by his sister, Olivia Anderson.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Olivia and I am one of Ryan's older sisters, the better one in my opinion, and clearly his. I mean, let's take a look around the room and see which sister is in here today. I'm just kidding, I'm actually shocked Ryan asked me to be here to introduce him. When Ryan was born in 2005, I was in kindergarten. It was actually in the lower school hallways that Genevieve and I decided on his name. I could have been up here introducing Drew Anderley, a variant of my brother who's in my mind kinder and smarter and like that effortless type of cool, but alas, we chose Ryan. For a while, Ryan was the perfect baby brother. We would treat him like our own little dog. We got to dress him and feed him and tell him what to do. He would let us put headbands in his big mess of curly hair. He wouldn't and still won't let us curl with mascara on his gorgeous to kill for eyelashes, but I don't know if I can let that one go. Just once, Ryan, like just imagine the potential. Anyway, something changed and we're not sure what happened. Some theorize maybe it was the scum stench while during his break in the shirt. Others say we played our favorite home video of him dancing in his underwear a few too many times. And speaking of, he's lucky I didn't feel like inconveniencing anyone to ask for a projector and screen. I'll find our mother after these speeches and she can have that pulled up in 2 seconds. Anyway, Ryan was no longer the angel we once knew. He loves to prove that he is stronger than me. He does this weird thing with his chin, it's deceivingly sharp, and he finds a pressure point in your back and will have you incapacitated with one dig. We're all afraid of the chin in our household. He loves to throw a hand in my face and say, ooh, make you flinch, as most people would if a fist was flying at full speed. Our ongoing argument is the question, who would win in a fight, me or him? He likes to bring this up at all family gatherings, and you should see how hurt he gets from time and time and time and again, people say me. And this is where the chin usually comes in because now he has a point to prove. All of these are reasons why I was initially shocked Ryan asked me to talk to all of you today. I mean, I have so many embarrassing things I could have said, but when I learned what Ryan's speech was about, I knew he had a good reason. Ryan chose to speak about the one thing, no matter what, we will always have in common. It's one of the most meaningful things in my life, and I know the next several minutes will change yours. His speech is about to go someplace no senior speech has ever dared to think about going. It's revolutionary, brilliant, intellectual, historical, thought-provoking. Ryan, I love you, bro. I'll let you take it from here.
First of all, I would literally destroy her in a fight, so my defense. When first sitting down to write my senior speech, I, like all my other senior peers, began to think about what makes me unique. What could I say about myself that would be original, creative, and maybe even a little inspiring? It didn't take long to find out that I'm generally not that distinctive. Sure, I have a few somewhat interesting things to say about myself, but not much I can turn into a whole 5-8-minute speech. I live in Simpsonville, Kentucky, and Sellersburg, Indiana, so I guess I drive a lot. I'm an avid LEGO enthusiast, but I don't frankly think any of you care enough to hear me ramble along about intricate details of sets. I've dedicated hours and hours of lacrosse, but the athlete trope is a bit overdone in my opinion. After deep thought, it hit me. I'm a fan. A fan? Yes, I'm a fan. While some people watch their favorite team, follow their social media, and even attend a game every once in a while, I am simply different. If you don't already know me, and about me and my family's obsession with Michigan State football, we are this and much, much more. Most people don't typically submit themselves to 5.5-hour drives both ways most weekends in the fall. But we do. Not only have we been fortunate enough to be able to go to home games in the past few years, but I've also been able to travel to Seattle, Phoenix, Chicago, Miami, Atlanta, Indianapolis, Bloomington, West Lafayette, Ann Arbor, and Madison, all for the sole purpose of Michigan State football. I've even been interviewed for the East Lansing News about Michigan State football. If you want to see the video clip, also, like my mother, contact me after the speech. With sport and football having such a large role in my life, I've learned and witnessed lots. For my speech today, I decided that I would do my best to pass on these lessons I've learned as a fan. I'll never forget hearing Sean McDonough roar, "He had trouble with the snap, and the ball is free! It's picked up by Michigan State's Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game! Unbelievable!" Watching LJ Scott battle and make a second effort to reach his arms over the goal line to seal a Big Ten championship with only 27 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter, or watching Kenneth Walker III rush for 5 touchdowns to help come back, being down 14-30 to beat a bitter rival, Michigan. There's something I've learned to value more than the big plays or the memorable moments, though. Don't get me wrong, you will absolutely find me screaming at the television when Michigan State is playing, but the victories aren't what I've come to enjoy most. What I've gradually come to understand is that what has been most meaningful to me is the time I've been able to share with my family for the games and the countless hours discussing and arguing about the team. I remember going back to my sister's dorm in 2017 during a 3.5-hour rain delay while the weather continued to deteriorate to what seemed like a tornado on just the other side of the window. We bonded over the comfort and safety inside. I'm forever grateful for the spam of texts about constant recruiting updates, referee complaints, post-game analysis, and news about the program in the group chat with my dad, sister, and family friend Sparky. I still proudly build a fight song at every opportune moment. I'll spare you for now, but don't be surprised if you hear me later humming the tune of Victory for MSU. And I most importantly realized that there's no one else I'd rather spend the mind-numbing 5.5-hour drive with. As much as I've appreciated my family's role in my Michigan State fandom, there becomes a certain point where I knew I had to stand on my own. Coming off a New Year's Six bowl win and a massively successful season, Michigan State was ranked 11th in the AP and 9th in the Coaches Bowl with an away game against the Washington Huskies in Seattle. With the game on Saturday, it was going to be quite the challenge to get all the way across the country after school on Friday. Even more challenging, I had to get there all on my own, to meet my father and stepmom, who were already in California. I was willing to do whatever it took to get to that game, so late-night flights were not out of the question. Getting to the Louisville airport was nothing out of the ordinary. Straight in security, then around to almost 3-hour flight to Denver. Keep in mind, my first flight took off around 4:30 Eastern Time. All my friends back in Louisville were having fun with the homecoming dance, but I had the luxury of completing all my calculus homework during my 4-hour layover, thanks to the entertainment Mr. Stern. After another flight of just short of 3 hours, I had finally arrived in Seattle. It was 11 p.m. Pacific Time, or 2 a.m. Eastern Time. After the long day of travel and school I had under my belt, I was understandably ready to fall asleep standing up. Only one obstacle remained between me and a mattress, the trip to the hotel. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the layout of Seattle, the Seattle-Tacoma Airport is all the way south of the city, but connected by train. The hotel where I was meeting my family, on the other hand, was just north of the city, so taking the train all the way up seemed like a perfect plan. By the time I gathered my things and made the walk over the light rail platform, it was almost midnight. I eventually found my seat on the train, updated my downward text, and desperately fought the urge to close my eyes and fall asleep. After a few minutes on the train, I faintly heard an announcement from the onboard system. I entirely brushed it off, not caring about Seattle news or train service updates, considering I was going to be there for the weekend. After a few more minutes, the same announcement was repeated over the train speakers. What I heard immediately woke me up. Unbeknownst to me, the mainline train service did not run at all hours of the day, like I'd expected. Instead, when we reached the Stadium District, also known as the center of downtown, I was kicked off. Exhausted from a never-ending day of travel, I was alone in one of the most dangerous parts of Seattle, carrying a large black duffel bag, and still miles away from my final destination, all at what felt like 3 a.m. Eastern Time. After swiftly getting away from the mixed bag of people who were also booted from the train, I still needed to find a way to get to the hotel. After immediately nixing the idea of on-foot travel, I had to find some other way by car. I didn't see any taxis on any nearby streets, but I also didn't want to wait for an expensive Uber to come rescue me. I eventually bit the bullet and called an Uber. 40 bucks later, I was finally back at the hotel. The rest of the vacation went along without a hitch if you disregard the result of the game. So now, you may be asking yourself, what I learned from this experience. To that I say, I learned some of my most valuable real-life lessons thus far. I learned to always double-check travel plans when in unfamiliar places. I learned that being able to quickly resolve a problem is an essential skill. I learned that the world may be scary at times, but I'm more than capable of trusting my instincts and using available resources to adapt to my surroundings. At the point I am now in my life, off to college in less than a year, these skills are some of the best things I could have ever learned. While I never wanted to be put in a stressful situation, I learned how to operate alone in a foreign environment. In a weird way, I am thankful that I got the opportunity to figure things out on my own. Now, before I finish up, I would like to note that it is still undecided where I will be attending college in the fall. With that said, I am forever grateful for the memories that Michigan State has afforded me, and the experiences I've been lucky enough to have taught me skills which can't be learned in the classroom. For those of you who may ridicule people for getting upset and overly into sports, for me, it's more than just a game. It's family. Lastly, today is my father's birthday, so happy birthday, Dad, and thank you.
Our final speaker today is David Kaplan. David will be introduced by his sister, Nessa Kaplan. So, hi, my name is Nessa Kaplan, and if you don't know me, and you probably don't, I'm David's younger sister. I'm basically 3 years younger than him, and not to steal the spotlight, my birthday's in a few days. But anyways, let's get to the point, David. So, I'm going to briefly talk about him and tell a few little stories. So, every morning at 7:45 a.m., I get dropped off at the high school. Not by choice, but by force. This year, David decided that even though school for him starts 15 minutes later than for me, he still needs us to get dropped off wherever is more convenient for him. Yay. Another thing about David is that he Googles everything. And by everything, I mean everything. Just a day or two ago at dinner, he mentioned something about German grammar. Literally, nobody at the table asked or understood what he was talking about, but he wasn't sure whether the thing he said was true, so he proceeded to Google whatever he mentioned for like 10 minutes straight. I kid you not, he's always determined to prove himself right. He will say the most random statement or fact, and even though no one contradicts him, no one cares, and no one would ever think to possibly doubt him, he will go on to Google it and find at least 10 reasons that support his point, which he then shares with everyone, even though, once again, nobody asked. I don't think he could possibly imagine his life without Google, or me for that matter. Anyways, please welcome my brother, David Kaplan.
In my defense, it was really interesting. Anyway, hello, hola, guten Tag, привет, konnichiwa. Mi nombre es, heiße, mein imię, watashi no namae wa, my name is David Kaplan. Some of you may know me as the computer guy, or that guy who gets way too involved in science and math class. So I'll give you one guess as to what I decided to write my senior speech about. I was considering writing about how I'm a man of crazy ideas, or maybe my youth, I'm 16, or maybe something about my passion for STEM. It would be. But when I sat down and started writing, I realized that those don't make for a good story. Where's the moral? Where's the intrigue? Where's the comedy? So I decided to scrap 20 pages of drafts and pivot completely to something a little bit more interesting and unique. And as you may have guessed from the first sentence or two, it's language. Not computer language, so that's pretty interesting as well, but spoken and written language. I've always had a passion for language and linguistics. I've spoken 2 languages, English and Russian, for my entire life by virtue of my heritage. I've taken 6 or so years of Spanish. I'm taking Japanese via GOA right now. Highly recommend. And I decided to pick up some German via Duolingo over winter break. Why? Well, a couple of reasons. 1, I like suffering. 2, it's interesting. And 3, it's an essential component of human society. Out of the 5 technologies an advanced civilization absolutely needs to progress, 3 of them relate to language. They are spoken language, written language, and a decent number system. That's 3 out of 5. The other 2 are small things like the scientific method and food. But David, you may say, language is boring. It's just for saying stuff. Only reason I'm in a language class right now is police are required 3 credits for me to graduate. Oh, no, mon ami. You are missing French. You are missing out. Look deeper into the language. Embrace the idiosyncrasies. Investigate the stupid. Why is it like that? Why does German capitalize all its nouns? Why does Spanish have 4 million different tenses and conjugations I can never remember? Why does French ignore half the letters? Why is English the patchwork nightmare of exceptions and inconsistencies it is? Where on earth did Japanese come from? They don't know. It just came out of nowhere. Language is something that we take for granted every single day, but I believe that it's important that we take a closer look at those things that we use all the time without thinking. Language performs one of the most crucial functions in society. It is what sets us apart from other animals. It allows us to communicate, to spread abstract ideas, to develop along with each other. Everyone speaks language a little bit differently, yet there are always connections and similarities, especially among all the European languages. Who here has taken Spanish and realized that it's pretty similar to English? They use mostly the same alphabet, some of the words are pretty much identical, and the grammar is very similar. What does that say about us as people? Nevertheless, each language has its quirks. German has its stupid long compound nouns. And when I say stupid long, I mean stupid long. The longest recognized word in German is Kraftfahrzeughaftpflichtversicherung. That is one word, 36 letters, 9 syllables. It means motor vehicle liability insurance because, of course, there needs to be a separate word for that. And English, aside from its truly odd spelling and its plethora of exceptions to every single rule, has something that I have never seen in another language. Monstrous syllables. That German word I just said, it's long, but it's not that hard to pronounce. Yet it has short syllables. Each syllable has a maximum of 5 or so consonant sounds and 1 or 2 vowel sounds. Kraft. So, cool. English, however, seems to be perfectly fine with syllables being absolutely gigantic. It's not one of its strengths. Do you notice that? Strengths. That's 1 syllable. 9 letters, 8 consonant sounds, 1 syllable. And people wonder why English is so hard to learn to speak. Plus, English has an interesting unspoken adjective order rule that we all follow, but don't know that we follow. Adjectives in English basically have to go in the order of opinion, size, physical quality, shape, age, color, origin, material, and purpose. Deviate from that order even slightly, you sound very weird. For example, my lovely little old green silver whittling knife. It's awesome, it does exactly what I needed to do. But when I call it my silver little green whittling lovely old knife, I sound like I'm insane. We never think about it or learn about it in class, but that adjective order rule is incredibly important. Because English is not inconsistent either, you can think of like 40 exceptions. And Japanese just takes word order-based grammar and throws it out the window. Defenestrates it, if you will. Okay. I won't explain the entirety of Japanese grammar right now, but suffice to say, it's very different and quite interesting. Look it up. I did when I wrote that and spent a solid 40 minutes going through the Wikipedia page. Tom Scott, the red shirt guy on YouTube, has a great short video series about English grammar. Check it out. I did when I wrote that and wasted 2 more hours. Anyway, why bother looking at these differences? Well, for one, learning about other languages will help you understand your own. English didn't come from nowhere, unlike Japanese after all. Helps you puzzle out the meaning of words that you don't know. For example, the word skiro. Now, if you don't know what that means, you can apply your immense knowledge of English grammar, etymology, and phototactics to decipher the word's meaning. From that, you can break the word into 2 parts, skira and for. The second part for you've seen before in words like herbivore, so it probably means one who eats. The first bit, scira, is spelled S-C-I-R-A. S-C-I. Sa. That kind of sounds like the word science. One who eats science? That doesn't make sense. Maybe one who eats knowledge. All right, if you followed along, congratulations. You determined the meaning of a word that I made up. It's not in the dictionary, but it sure sounds like English. Now, why did I make it up? Well, it was for another version of my speech. I spent about an hour talking to an English professor about it. Now, you may think that this endeavor was a massive waste of time, and I should have been working on college applications, homework, or literally anything else productive. And to that I say, you're right. I told you I'd probably get distracted. I still haven't really given you a good reason why studying your languages, both your own and foreign ones, is important. So I'll stop stalling. As I said earlier, language helps you communicate. Communication is what sets this era apart from the rest. It's not called the information age for nothing. Now more than ever, we talk to people. People nearby, people across the globe, people everywhere. The internet makes talking trivial, and each and every single one of those billions of people has something to contribute, something to share. But we'll never know what they bring to the table if we never talk to them. And how can we possibly hope to talk to them if we don't understand their language? Languages are connected, and even if you can't speak a language, you can maybe puzzle its meaning together if you know some similar languages. For example, I speak Russian, and because of that, I can sort of understand Bosnian, Kazakh, Ukrainian, Belarusian, and most of the Slavic languages. You yourself, if you speak English, can probably puzzle together some of the meaning of German, Norwegian, French, and Dutch. Especially Dutch, actually. It's the most closely related major language to English. It explains why it's so weird. Knowing just one more language opens you up to many more. Each extra language that you can understand is another group of millions or even billions of people whose opinions you can appreciate and value. So go. Go to language classes with renewed vigor, with renewed purpose. Go learn to talk. Go learn to speak. And most importantly, go learn to understand. Gracias. Danke schön. Спасибо. Arigatou gozaimashita. Thank you.